Hi, I'm Eric Voss, and Marvel's Black Panther has a new full trailer with vibrant visuals and closer looks at the advanced weaponry of these characters. That's the thing about Marvel, guys. As you spend more time in these worlds, things just get crazier, more colorful, and so much better. I'm gonna break down all the little things you might have missed, explain the deeper meaning of the song choices and the themes, and probably mispronounce a few things. So let's get started.
I have seen gods fly. I've seen men build weapons that I couldn't even imagine. I've seen aliens drop from the sky.
Yeah.
But I have never seen anything like this. How much more are you hiding?
Okay, this trailer starts off with the voice of Martin Freeman's Everett Ross of the CIA, trying to learn from T'Challa more about Black Panther and the mysterious kingdom of Wakanda. Notice how each of his references to past Marvels sync up with just one facet of Black Panther's world. Gods that fly, a reference to Thor, is a quality we see with Black Panther's jet. Men that build weapons I couldn't even imagine, a reference to Tony Stark, is synced with M'Baku's advanced throne room, more on that in a second. Black Panther, of course, has his own Stark-style suit and technology. And aliens dropping from the sky, a reference to Loki and the Chitauri invaders in the Avengers, is synced up with the Wakandan jets hovering down like UFOs. Now the point of all this is to get us hyped, promising that the unbelievable things that we've seen in the MCU so far will be present here and then some. Now M'Baku is also referred to as Man-Ape in the comics. He's a rival who leads the Jabari village in the mountains of Wakanda. Now instead of the Panther god, they worship the white gorilla, bathing in the animal's blood and eating its flesh to gain powers. We'll see if all these details come into the movie, but these hanging things look like they could be staffs of past leaders, perhaps created out of giant bones of massive gorillas that this tribe has killed. And then notice T'Challa's coy reaction here.
How much more are you hiding?
Hold up.
Now in the teaser, we saw another angle of this room, including a monitor in the background with what looked like Steve Rogers' face on it. Remember, at the end of Civil War, we learned that Black Panther hosted Cap in Wakanda. So, aiding and abetting a known fugitive is yet another thing Wakanda is hiding. Let's move on.
Let's go.
We are home.
Okay, lots of cool details here. This is Vince Staples' Bag Back, an amazing rap single that came out earlier this year. It deals with a lot of modern racial identity themes. Later on, we'll hear the song's chorus, Bag Back, You Don't Know Me, which reflects the speaker's resistance to the false assumptions people make about his appearance. And as we hear this song about looking beyond false layers, notice the parallelism with the imagery as the jet cuts through the false boundary layers that hide the true Wakanda. And piloting this jet with her hands over sensors is Okoye, played by Danai Gurira, Michonne from The Walking Dead. She is a warrior in the Dora Milaje, the elite all-female guard of Wakanda. We also see this kingdom from the street level. The production designers said that they took inspiration from the original Blade Runner. And what made that Blade Runner aesthetic so great was how they mixed futuristic technology with authentic grounded realism. And that mix is reflected here, with the super advanced high-speed elevated train in the background, but also the surface street bus-style trolley crawling past pedestrians. And this glimpse of the Wakandan society also shows how the Black Panther movie will explore Afrofuturism. Afrofuturism is a concept in philosophy, art, and literature that examines racial themes through the lens of science fiction, in an idealized advanced future that still embraces elements of present-day culture. The Black Panther comics are actually one of the most prominent examples of Afrofuturism in pop culture, and this film very much appears to be embracing that whole idea. And one of the examples of that I noticed was the written language of Wakanda, which you can see on the banner of this shot and throughout this trailer. In Civil War, we actually heard this language spoken aloud between T'Challa and his father, T'Chaka. Now you may have heard those vocal clicks in their language. Now those are from the South African language of, and forgive my pronunciation because the name of the language actually has a click in it, Xhosa. I kinda got it. This language is spoken by 7.9 million people, including the late Nelson Mandela. Now the written form of the language is different, but also seems to be derived from real-world sources. People have compared the look of the symbols to the ancient South Arabian alphabet or the Tifano system of North Africa. But the closest parallel is the Nsibiti language of pre-colonial Nigeria. In the old poster, you can actually use Nsibiti to translate the symbols on the wall to, roughly, Congress Hall of the Panther King and Nation. Now, I've had trouble translating these other letters, but either way, I love that the filmmakers could be using an indigenous Nigerian alphabet as part of this Afrofuturist culture. Let's move on.
My son, it is your time.
Show me my respect and bow down.
You get to decide kind of king you are going to be.
In this section, we see T'Challa's homecoming with Lupita Nyong'o's Nakia, another member of the Dora Milaje, who later gets villainized into Malice later in the comics. I'm not sure if that'll happen in this movie. They're greeted by Queen Ramonda, played by Angela Bassett. The costuming of this film is amazing. Notice her white mesh here. That appears to be a royal ceremonial color. Her daughter Shuri wears a similar design. There's also another shot of the Warrior Falls that we saw in the teaser, but in this case, T'Challa is fighting M'Baku. Notice the white skull helmet and the white war paint and the staff that we saw him holding before. So it appears T'Challa will have to fight several contenders in this arena as a sort of rite of passage. I also love this familial handshake between T'Challa and Shuri. Notice how it ends with them crossing their hands over their chests. The Dora Milaje salute had a similar gesture, and I think this could be based on the American Sign Language gesture meaning love. And this shot solves the mystery of the two different versions of the Black Panther suit that we saw in the teaser. Shuri engineers all these suits. She's supposed to be smarter than Tony Stark, and she made a new advanced version that appears to be less bulky. We'll talk about some of the other features when we see them later in the trailer, so let's move on.
Don't freeze.
I never freeze.
The revolution will not be televised.
Okay, this is the coolest shot of the trailer, and I think this teasing banter before the hero drops out of the jet could be a nod to the shot in the Iron Man 2 trailer. And the way Black Panther drops out feels a little similar to Iron Man's ejection in Civil War. But the most interesting thing to me here is the music. The Back Back song gets mixed with Gil Scott-Heron's 1970 poem and song, The Revolution Will Not Be Televised.
The revolution will not be televised.
Like Back Back, this track also expresses powerful racial themes, but in this case, it stemmed from the Black Power movement of the late 60s, early 70s. The phrase referred to the discrepancy between demonstrations in the streets and the whitewashed media coverage that ignored these real issues. The whole idea was that these activists couldn't rely on the traditional media to tell their story. They had to take action and tell it themselves. I feel like this narrative also applies on a meta level to Black Panther's existence as a film. More on that later, but let's move on.
Show me my respect and bow down. We own ya. We own ya. We only getting started now, cause we own ya. Everybody think they know me now, cause we own ya. You and I'm my homie now, cause we own ya.
Okay, here we see the villain of this movie, N'Djaka, aka Eric Killmonger, played by Michael B. Jordan. We see some repeated shots from the teaser of breaking Ulysses Claw out of the CIA captivity, but in this shot, we get a quick look at this ring around his neck. Now, I could be wrong, but this looks a lot like T'Chaka's ring in Civil War. That ring could symbolize T'Challa's birthright, and if Killmonger has it here, maybe that means he stole that birthright and the claim to the throne of Wakanda. But then we get this super interesting shot of T'Challa in this dreamlike state, communing with these panthers in a Saharan tree. Now, these panthers could symbolize T'Challa's ancestors, the previous leaders to hold the title of Black Panther, including his late father, T'Chaka. And yes, this does feel a lot like Simba speaking with Mufasa in The Night Sky, the Lion King. Now, if one of those panthers is T'Chaka, this scene could be the source of that wise voiceover audio that we heard from him in the teaser.
You are a good man with a good heart.
And perhaps this is a spiritual vision induced by Zuri, Forrest Whitaker's character, who's supposed to be an Obi-Wan type priestly figure. Those fumes he was cooking up looked like they could have been at least a little hallucinatory. And before I move on, we see more of Black Panther's new vibranium suit in action. Notice how the suit crawls over his body to take form. This is actually how Black Panther's suit in the recent Ta-Nehisi Coates run of the comics, and it seems at least partially inspired by Tony Stark's technology. Remember, in Civil War, his armor emanated from his wristwatch. And yes, we're still waiting to see a version of his Bleeding Edge armor from the comics, which is based on nanobots in his skin that emerge out and assemble into his armor. It's not totally clear in this shot where Black Panther's vibranium armor is emanating out from. We'll have to see more footage to see if it's based in any way on Bleeding Edge. But the suit also has an inner purple glow. I think that indicates a link to Shuri providing backup support on the suit. Notice how it's the same color as the inner display of the car that she's driving. So I think one of the features on this new suit is an open connection to his sister, who can operate certain functions and help her brother out in the field. I don't know, maybe having his sister as a voice in his ear might have been why T'Challa looks so concerned earlier on. Yeah, I think I'll just take the old suit, thanks. Let's move on.
I waited my entire life for this. The world's gonna start over. I'ma burn it all.
What happens now determines what happens to the rest of the world.
This section gives us more context for Killmonger. First, I thought these statues were panthers, but looking more closely, their color appears more golden. Now, Killmonger's suit is being referred to as the Golden Jaguar, so I think this might be his home burning, and that we're seeing part of his origin here. We also see Killmonger in this museum that Claw robs. The two of them may be after some Wakandan artifact that will help him in his coup. Notice the display item on the right kind of looks like the face of a panther or a jaguar. But also, these ancient spear tips are the same ones that we saw Killmonger using in the next shot when he's fighting against the Dora Milaje. So I'm thinking that maybe these weapons were wielded from vibranium. Also, if you look closely, you can see Killmonger is wearing that ring from before, now on his finger. And yeah, it looks even more like T'Chaka's ring here. So in addition to stealing T'Chaka's birthright, he's apparently staging this coup to usurp his position as King of Wakanda. And yes, that includes his own badass Golden Jaguar vibranium suit. Much like Black Panther's new suit, it assembles over his face. Based on the fact that he was wearing that golden necklace before, I'm thinking that maybe the golden necklace is where it emanates from. I also like the design variances here. Notice how the face mask includes an open jaguar mouth with gnashing teeth, unlike Black Panther's mask, which features no mouth at all. I think that reflects the differences between these warriors as characters. Killmonger is more aggressive, more of a showboat, while T'Challa seems more defensive with his mouth closed, no need to show off or roar. Let's move on.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. Wakanda forever! The revolution will not be televised.
Okay, a few familiar shots here, but notice these ones of Black Panther and Killmonger battling on the train platform. Specifically, check out the background. It looks like they're underground here, and those walls look to me to be a little metallic. Almost like this is a vibranium mine underneath the city. Earlier, the background of Shuri's lab had a similar look. Like maybe since she engineers weaponry from vibranium, she built her workstation right in the source of her raw materials. Now, that vibranium weaponry included these badass Panther head arm cannons that we started with in the teaser, and you can see her with those again in the background of this fight with Killmonger, who strikes at Nakia. So I'm guessing we're in store for a 2-on-1 fight between these characters. But let's move on to the final section.
Let's have some fun. The revolution will be live.
Okay, after hearing Andy Serkis' voice so much as a CG performer in The Lord of the Rings and Planet of the Apes and Snoke and Star Wars, I love that we get to see him in this great physical live action role. Notice how Claw has this new cybernetic arm which opens up like Inspector Gadget to release this powerful weapon. This is based on Claw's sonic arm cannon in the comics. That can release powerful blasts of sonic energy. And if you watch this blast slowly, you can see the sound waves distort the air before it strikes the car and obliterates it. And as Black Panther draws his claws for this badass final pose, we can hear Gil Scott-Heron's final lyric from The Revolution Will Not Be Televised.
The revolution will be live.
That is the heart of this message, that progress and change won't happen if we passively wait for it on old media sources. Change must happen live through action on the ground level. And after being overlooked for far too long, the people behind Black Panther the film are promising that this powerful active hero will bring a revolution of a different kind. But a question for you guys, which do you expect will end up being more of an influential superhero movie to break ground for a new audience?